Well, not too long ago, a subscriber asked me if I was going to review the Godzilla and Kong trailer. And I said, not by any chance. Didn't have the time. And then I thought, with the release of Godzilla times Kong down the road, I thought it'd be a right time to review every film in the Monsterverse, in order, of course. Never really had the chance to review any of these films with the exception of Godzilla vs. Kong almost 3 years ago. At least I think I did. I don't remember. Well, the Monsterverse came out at a time when everyone in Hollywood wanted to follow the pattern of the MCU, a shared cinematic universe, and then all of a sudden pops up the DCEU that started the year before the release of this film. Godzilla, for at least in American standards, I wouldn't say forgotten, but it wasn't as relevant as it was many years before. See, you had Cloverfield. Some were stooped on either the trailers for Cloverfield was for promotion for a new Godzilla film, but not by any chance. I would say the Cloverfield series probably ignited Godzilla in America, because in the late 2000s, America only had the Hanna-Barbera 1978 animated show, where Godzilla was called out of the water, out of the depths of the oceans by a remote from humans to save the day. And then in 1998, we had that terrible showing of Godzilla starring Ferris Bueller. And that was it. And then, I guess, account that TV show based on the same movie. Rumors of a reboot started actually in 2004 as Godzilla 2014 started as an IMAX short film before being shelved for a couple of years until Legendary Pictures revived it and wanted a full-length film that spent years in development hell until director Gareth Edwards was hired on in 2011, with the production beginning in March of 2013. The film was influenced by Nolan's adaptation of Batman, and what I mean by that, Batman had his own dark, more sophisticated, more down-to-earth reboot with Legendary back in 2005, and every franchise wanted to use Batman Begins style story writing as a starting point. And of course, like Batman, Warner Brothers was behind the start of this said universe, the Monsterverse. Godzilla was released May 16, 2014 to, I would say, positive reviews. And here we go. Godzilla plot is straight up, without all the twists and turns. I think along the way over the years, the later movies were silly, somewhat convoluted, but when dealing with monsters, plot is minimal. But in the recent Godzilla -1, plot was everything, and the human element wasn't for jokes. In that film, man is seen as coward among peers as he runs away from conflict when Godzilla first attacks in the beginning of the film. Man seeks redemption in one of the worst times in Japanese history, historically, and I guess fictionally. Man seeks redemption, the lizard, as a way to atone for his sin, who has practically made hell for the country. That's Godzilla -1 in a nutshell. In this film, the human element is there, but it's a little bit different in a way. Probably one of the better displays of humans in the plot in this shared universe, because with the recent Godzilla films, the humans tend to get on my nerves, especially the King of Monsters. Damn movie. The story picks up in 1954 with Godzilla. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Zerazado and Graham, who, while they investigate a skeleton of a monster similar to Godzilla in the Philippines, the scientists discover two pores. Is it pores or spores? I would say spores. Pores. One of the spores hatched, and whatever creature it was, it escaped into the ocean, never to be seen again in 1999. In the same year, we moved to Japan, introducing Joe Brody and his family. The Brodys, being engineers at a nuclear plant in the city, tragedy strikes when Joe's wife perishes in the nuclear plant's meltdown destruction, leaving Joe a widower and his son motherless. his son named Ford. Learned that the actors to play for Brody was Superman himself, Scoot McNairy, who was supposed to be in a way Metallo in the DCEU, but that never turned out the way it was. But anyways, Caleb Landry Jones with Aaron Taylor Johnson winning the role. Probably the best pick, because I think Henry is more concentrated on Superman at the time. And probably would have been too old to play that character in a way. But anyways, 15 years later, Ford is in the U.S. Navy as a member of the Explosive Ordnance Disposal, meaning him and others like him deal with chemical, nuclear, biological recovery or disposal. He returns to his wife and kid in San Francisco from a tour, but has to head to Japan to attend to his father, who has been detained by the Japanese authorities for entering the quarantine zone to find the clues behind the nuclear plant's destruction 15 years earlier. Joe does not believe it was a nuclear meltdown, but something else. He feels like the government is hiding something, the real answer he seeks, and I think we all can relate to that. Yeah. Well, father and son seek back into the quarantine zone to get information from their former residents and discover the quarantine zone is clean, free from contamination. They are soon picked up by authorities and led to a facility on the ruins of the plant, discovering massive larvae. Or one. It hatches. It wrecks the facility, with Joe being mortally wounded in the destruction. Joe dies. The creature that destroyed the facility escapes, with Monarch coining the name for this creature, Muto, as it flies away in its mail. Officials report that the accident was caused by an earthquake. You lying asses. But to see Bryan Cranston's character off in the first 30 minutes of the movie was, at the time for me, disappointing. Judging from the commercials and the trailers, you would think Bryan Cranston's character would be the main character in the story, right?
Wrong.
Cranston at the time was pretty popular due to his time leading in Breaking Bad. Cranston liked the film, but after sight, he said Joe's death was a mistake. I for one didn't like it, but his death did serve a point to the film as it went on, particularly in his son. Going back to the film, the U.S. Navy wants eyes on the male Muto. Ford discovers from Monarch that they've known about Godzilla for 60 years, after he was awakened by a bunch of nonsense, according to Godzilla. I'm joking. But he was awakened by deep-sea bombings, and they tried to kill the monster when posed a threat, but failed. Thus, Project Monarch was started to study Godzilla and others like him. Ford informs the U.S. Navy of Monarch that his father was monitoring the communication between the Muto and another creature, maybe that creature being Godzilla. Ford heads back home, arriving in Hawaii. The male Muto makes work of a Russian sub for his nuclear power, dumping the sub in Hawaii to eat the nuclear material. So if we haven't learned by now, the Muto feeds off nuclear power, but this attracts someone special. Almost an hour into the film, we receive our first appearance of Godzilla arriving in Honolulu. Now, critics did not like the late arrival of Godzilla in this film, in addition to the monster's minimal screen time. Edwards has said in interviews he was inspired by Jaws while writing this film, probably where the last name Brody actually came from. Chief Brody, Ford Brody, Joe Brody, you get it? In Jaws, as viewers, we did not see Bruce the Shark until the film's almost climax. For most of the film, the shark was surrounded in mystery. The islanders were stumped at what was attacking the people on the beach. They thought at one point in time it was a tiger shark, but the killings continued to keep happening after that tiger shark was killed. Some speculate that it might have been a great white shark behind the deaths. But we don't receive our first full appearance of the shark until Chief Brody catches a glimpse of the beast, resulting in him saying one of the most famous lines in cinematic history.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
That's what Edwards was going for in Godzilla. We have an anticipation, mystery surrounding Godzilla, thinking Godzilla could be the one behind Joe's wife's death at the beginning of the film at that nuclear plant, or it could have been someone else.
But he arrives, all 355 feet of him stomping around Hawaii in the dark, causing a tsunami in Honolulu for reasons I don't know why. But it doesn't happen when Godzilla reaches San Francisco later in the film. Maybe it did, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. It's a movie. I'm no scientist, so I don't know what causes tsunamis, except earthquakes, I guess. But I'm guessing for spectacle and to understand the magnitude of Godzilla, the tsunami was there. Now, I thought Godzilla showing an hour into the film was perfect. Like I said before, creating suspense and mystery and anticipation. But once his foot lands at that airport, the people running scared, all silent as they acknowledge the king of monsters, saying, "Kneel before Zod!" in awe and fear of this big beast. Anyways, Godzilla and the Muto scramble for a bit as Ford protects the kid from harm on the tram at Honolulu International after the Muto tears the tram park up. Honolulu is left in chaos the next morning. Well, that's one city gone that everyone visits, because Honolulu is among the top 10 of most visited cities in America. Now, will the movie go for more? So it wasn't Godzilla. It was the Muto it was communicating with. It was another monster, a female Muto that was contained and hatched in the facility in Nevada. It's unknown of the origins of these Mutos, but I think it's cosmic, like that dragon in the next film. The female Muto wrecks another vacation spot in Las Vegas as it heads to the location of the male Muto. I'm sure the movie won't go for another vacation spot in America, right?
Wrong.
Before we go on with the show, how about you guys like, share, subscribe to Franchise History TV, even comment down in the comments down below. I'm also on Instagram at franchise_TV and on Twitter at TV_franchise. I also have two other channels if you guys are interested: Lone Wolf Adventure TV and Franchise 2 Sports. So yeah, subscribe to those 3 channels. And also like, share, subscribe on all 3 of them. I said subscribe 3 times. I'm done. Bye.
The Navy plans to destroy the Mutos and Godzilla with a nuclear warhead, like they really worked the first time. But they plan to kill the creatures with the nuclear warheads, with Ford joining on to help detonate. Zerazawa pleads for the Navy to let the Godzilla save the day. But do they listen? Absolutely not. The female Muto eats 2 of the warheads, attacking the train that those warheads are on like tacos, breaking those plans of using their nuclear warheads like we couldn't see that really coming. But this is where we find out the full extent of how bad these Mutos are. The female is pregnant. Things couldn't get any worse for the humans from here. Maybe they should have listened to Zerazawa, who keeps creeping in every scene. He might know some things about these monsters. Maybe, just listen to him. So Ford and L's son is moved to the bus to escape the wrath of the monsters. The military plans to lure the monsters with the last nuclear warhead to San Francisco. Elle stays back. She is a nurse, so she pretty much has a duty, but that kind of backfires. Oh, guess what? Godzilla reaches San Francisco Bay. Well, damn, seeing how Las Vegas and Honolulu went, there goes another American tourist city gone. Edwards really went for the trifecta in this film. 3 American cities gone to dust, but more about the fate of San Francisco later on in a different video. So Godzilla arrives, the military shooting bullets and rockets at the beasts. Some of the firepower hitting the bridge with kids on it. Looking for those kids, Godzilla there to block the rockets and bullets. And I think this scene is a mess. Not in terms of filming, but just the decisions by the military. But also, this scene right here is revisited in the new Monarch series I haven't watched. Military endangering kids, and now you pissed off Godzilla. Lucky he honors his job, and lucky he does not like these Mutos. Oh yeah, the male Muto creates an EMP, shutting down the power in San Francisco. Like I said, the hits keep on coming, and then the male Muto steals the last warhead, activating the warhead. Only if the humans listen, they could have avoided some of this. Godzilla scrambles with the male Muto in the city as the city falls into chaos, with the citizens scrambling for their lives, including Ford's wife, Elle, Ford discovers his kid is safe, but the whereabouts of Elle are unknown. Female Muto creates a giant hole in the middle of the city to create a nest with thousands of offspring. I feel like they could have actually killed the female Muto before he even erupted out of that cocoon, but what are you gonna do? But the US, knowing that these monsters can take radiation, thinking that blast from the warheads would kill them is laughable. But back to the deeper meaning of that later. Now the military has to avoid another disaster. As I say, the hits keep coming. It's time to retrieve the last warhead after it was activated by the Mutos, with Ford joining on the strike force to help and maybe find his wife who's lost in this chaos, also to prevent his wife from dying, similar to how his mom died 15 years earlier. To retrieve said warhead, the strike force has to venture into the city via Halo Jump. The mission is pretty much a suicide mission. Ford and the strike team arrive Halo Jump into the city with Godzilla fighting the male Muto. It's actually a cool scene. It's actually a scary scene if you're jumping out of that plane, creating a fear factor. Like, yeah, I see these two monsters. I just thought, what happens if somebody gets hit by one of these monsters? Scary. The warhead is found in Chinatown, but the female Muto is guarding it as well as laying eggs into that nest. But Godzilla shows up in the cool scene right here in the darkness. This actually gives Ford and the team a chance to retrieve that warhead. The female Muto engages in battle with Godzilla. The military retrieves the warhead, but Ford, being an already smart nincompoop up at this bunch, he decides to blow up the nest to avoid further problems with the offspring. Smart man. Smart man. Meanwhile, Godzilla is getting his ass beat. He completes the job, but the explosion catches the attention of the female Muto, who cries for the death of her offspring. If Ford doesn't make any noise, he wouldn't have got away with it, but the Muto catches him. The scene reminds me back in '98 when Godzilla came out, you know, when Godzilla terrorizing New York and Matthew Broderick and those French dudes blew up Madison Square Garden, the nest of the asexual Godzilla, killing most of that Godzilla's offspring. Yeah, that's what that reminds me of. There's lots of homages to Godzilla '98 in this film. Another being when Godzilla arrives in San Francisco Bay. Kind of reminds me similarly how Godzilla arrives in New York. Anyways, back to 2014. Before the female Muto can attack Ford, Godzilla attacks the Muto with an atomic breath. Ford escapes, but with all that fighting, the male Muto dies. The building collapses on Godzilla from Godzilla whacking the hell out of the male Muto into that same building. The female attacks the military for stealing that same nuke. Then there's a moment between Godzilla and Ford. I think Ford was taken in the scene as this ancient, powerful monster falling at the might of a building and seeing how small he really is. Ford scrambles to the piers of the city as the strike force moves the warhead onto the boat so it can detonate at open seas. But the female Muto attacks most of the strike force. Ford jumps into the boat with the warhead to make sure it detonates at the sea, seemingly willing to sacrifice himself to save the people of the city and his own family. But the boat cuts out and the electricity cuts out all around him. Uh-oh. Ford looks above him. The female Muto standing over him like Allen Iverson did to Ty Lue back in 2001. It's a basketball reference, sorry. Predicting his death is near, he takes out his pistol to fire upon the creature, but before the creature can attack, Godzilla attacks the female Muto, and with the awesome death scene, Godzilla opens up the mouth of the female Muto and blasts his atomic breath, killing the Muto before he collapses. Tired, globetrotting the world to stop two idiots from terrorizing it, as well as avoiding more idiots in the military shooting rockets at him. I will be tired too. Ford teeters on life and death on the boat as the warhead is nearing the explosion, but he is saved and the warhead explodes in open waters. But I always thought radiation travels back into the city or travels through the wind, but anyways. Ford finds his son at the female outpost. I think that stadium is Candlestick Park, the former 49ers home before it was torn down in 2015. But that's not important. Another sports reference. What's important, Ford is reunited with his son and then Elle, his wife. I felt that, maybe in my opinion, that anyone can play Ford's wife, Elle. She didn't really have too many scenes other than, well, she was Ford's wife, the mother to his son, and she was a nurse in San Francisco, and now she's scrambling for her life in San Francisco doing all this rampage. But Elizabeth Olsen at the time was only known for her indie flicks and being the third sister, well, the third famous sister out of the Olsen family. She was impressed. She was impressed by Edward's enthusiasm for Godzilla, and that was the selling point for her getting onto this film. And as we all know, Olsen will go on to star with her co-host in this film, as well as Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in the MCU. Meanwhile, the Monarch scientist converges on Godzilla's body, but the King of Monsters rises from his slumber. The news questions Godzilla's savior as the monster heads into San Francisco Bay, not to be heard from again until 2019. Then everybody hates him. The end. Alright, time for the finale. I wanted to go in a little bit more, but I'm no Mauler. I'm not him. But anyways, man versus nature has always been a theme in Hollywood. This film was no different. I think out of all 38 Godzilla films, including the one being released in April, they all have some type of human element to it. Of course, it's the reason why Godzilla -1 was well received, because it was more than just Godzilla crumbling and destroying cities. Referring back to earlier to that film, man becomes coward during Godzilla's first attack. Man is ridiculed for his cowardness. Man loses things close to him. In this case, the main character in Godzilla -1, he loses his parents. They perish in one of the worst times in Japanese history. World War II. The end of World War II. If you know, you know. Coward man meets woman. Coward man loses woman that he cares about when Godzilla decides to attack the city. Coward man seeks redemption by killing Godzilla, even considering sacrificing himself. Man redeems himself and was able to survive. The end. In Godzilla 2014, the humans were at pure ignorance. There's a line by Dr. Serizawa gives to the Navy midway through the film.
Doctor, I know you don't agree with this, but my first priority is to safeguard our citizens. It's stopped.
Yes. 8:15 in the morning, August 6, 1945.
Hiroshima.
This Alpha Predator of yours, Doctor. Do you really think he has a chance?
The arrogance of man is thinking nature is in our control, and not the other way around. Let them fight.
Those scenes mean something. Dr. Serizawa's past relatives already experienced the horrors of what nuclear weapons can do. The irony behind the bombs dropping on Japan gave inspiration to this whole franchise. But back to Serizawa, he did not want the same for the US. 3 warheads exploding near large cities will have damaging effects on the economy and the environment surrounding the United States, worth more than just losing San Francisco. We already know all 3 monsters won't be hurt by the nuclear weapons. Therefore, it will be a waste. The ignorance of man, thinking man can control nature, but not realizing nature is in control. So let Godzilla do his thing, despite maybe losing San Fran. Fake Ra's al Ghul, if you get the reference, is a great character in this film. A film that was criticized for poor character development. But there is Joe Ford, who lost his wife in a nuclear plant meltdown. Now he wants answers, more than just being told that an earthquake was the reason for the meltdown. It's what most humans really want. The actual cold-hearted truth, not lies. I think most of us experience that one way or another in our life. Bryan Cranston. He stated he would never take the role of Joe Ford if there wasn't any sympathy for the humans. Well, he got it. He wanted more than Godzilla being just a huge lizard stomping everything. Edwards told him, no problem. Now, another character that was great but had no speaking roles was the King of Monsters himself. Edwards wanted him to be seen as a lone wolf type of character. So, our ego, dog faced lizard, personality, facial movement like friend, Godzilla, was pretty much don't bother me unless it's important. Well, Muto was a problem. I put Mutos down. Now leave me alone. Don't bother me. Now, I know it's some scenes from the Apple TV show that show him, Godzilla, a year after this film, but I'm going to go with what I know. We don't see Godzilla again until 2019. As far as Ford is concerned, I think he represented the viewer in a way as far as seeing everything through his eyes compared to these large beasts, but his character did have some weight. He had a duty. That was helping to destroy these monsters, but also trying to find and save his wife from certain harm, as he already lost his own mother and did not want the same for his own son. Inspirations for this film, according to Edwards, were not just based on films such as Jaws and Jurassic Park, but real life events such as the 2004 Indian tsunami. That's probably why there was a tsunami in Hawaii. Hurricane Katrina, think about the destructions of Hawaii and San Francisco. The Fukushima nuclear disaster from 2011. All these events perfectly displayed in film. Edwards is quoted saying he wanted realism to the film, more restraint on the script to avoid not goofiness but goofiness. Well, Gareth Edwards, they could use you for the later films. Is there anything else I want to add other than the Monarch series? I guess Ford Brody's aunt made an appearance as a Monarch operative. So now that I'm thinking about it, now I'm confused. If his aunt was in Monarch the whole time, you know what? I open up another can of worms. Like I said, I haven't watched the show, so I don't know anything. I just know that Ford Brody's aunt made an appearance in the show. But I guess there are some references to this film in the series which makes sense, but because, you know, Godzilla's first appearance since the 50s, and now the events of the film are known as G-Day. These damn movies, these damn Hollywood executives giving events names, maybe not executives, but writers. But anyway, they gotta give a name to everything these days. But we won't see Godzilla again till 2019. But you do get to see the big monkey in 2017. To be continued. Oh yeah, Light Note movie was so freaking dark I couldn't see anything. Now to be continued.